So I'm going to share with you 5 steps to stop being so easily triggered. So maybe you feel like you've lost emotional control again. And now you're just sitting there thinking about it and you're wondering, what the hell just happened? Somebody said something, somebody did something, and you reacted again. And it was like that instant reaction that came out of nowhere. And now you're left feeling ashamed, embarrassed, and wondering why you had such an extreme reaction to something that now, when you look back at it, seems a lot less serious than it seemed at the moment. So here's something you need to understand. Whenever you have an emotional reaction to something someone said or something that happened, and you later look back at that situation and think, wow, I totally overreacted. I reacted in a way that was completely disproportionate to what actually happened. Well, this is a sign that you were triggered by a past pain that is not yet healed. You have a festering wound within you, and when bumped by an event or circumstance that is similar to what you experienced in the past, then you're sent spiraling downward into emotional pain once again. And if this pattern is affecting your relationships negatively, you might be getting a bit nervous about that too. So, in fact, there's something interesting about most relationship squabbles. They're not entirely about the current circumstance that you're even fighting about. The emotional intensity is actually due to the fact that you've been triggered by past pain. That past pain could have either occurred within your relationship or in one or both partners' past. And that's what makes it so easy to make up afterwards. Because after the fights are over, you start feeling bad and you're wondering why you reacted so strongly. It just doesn't seem like a big deal anymore. But the truth is that you were triggered. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't even recognize this negative pattern in their lives and this tendency to be triggered by past pain. And it's wreaking havoc and preventing them from finding happiness and experiencing peace of mind. So I just want you to take a moment to think about the last time that you feel you overreacted in a situation. And I want you to ask yourself the following questions. How do I feel I overreacted in this situation? How does this situation resemble something that happened in my past? And how did I feel similar or different in this current situation? And what would I like to do differently next time? So by asking yourself these questions, you are bringing self-awareness and understanding to the situation that triggered you. And through this self-awareness, you can begin to move towards healing and growth. So how can you overcome these triggering situations so you can react differently in the future? Step 1 is to take personal responsibility. So it's important that you resist the urge to blame other people or circumstances for the fact that you have been triggered. This is a huge problem now in our modern culture. So we're given the impression by the media that it's our responsibility to avoid triggering everyone's past pain. So just think about it for a moment. This is absolutely impossible. It's an impossible standard. And there's really no way you can know what's going to bother every person that you meet or how to avoid bothering that person. Obviously, we should never deliberately speak or act in such a way that we would knowingly harm another individual. But it's simply impossible to avoid offending everyone. And to be inculcated with the belief that it is both possible and necessary for you to avoid offending everyone you meet is going to create social anxiety. So it's important for you to acknowledge, first of all, that no one else is responsible to avoid your triggers. They can't possibly know what they are. And even if you tell them, it's a very difficult burden for someone to remember everything that is going to trigger you, because you are distinctly aware of them, but they are not. And we have a personal responsibility to heal the past pain that is fueling our own triggers. We all have wounds, but we must make the decision to heal them so we do not bleed on others. So I want you to think about times when you have accidentally triggered other people. You unknowingly said or did something, and the person had a very disproportionate reaction and a very emotional response to that situation. And it's happened to all of us. When that happens, we're just standing there completely dumbfounded, wondering what the hell we just did. There's absolutely no way you can have enough knowledge about what's going on in someone else's mind to never trigger anyone. So there's absolutely no way you can expect other people to know enough about what's going on in your mind to never trigger you. This is why it's important to acknowledge that you are the one responsible for your emotional reactions and resulting behaviors. You are the one responsible to heal your past pain so that you are not continually triggered. So if you are now realizing that you've been blaming others for reactivating past wounds, you will find it liberating to let those people know that it wasn't their fault and that you are going to do what it takes to heal those wounds so you can experience healing and greater connection in your relationships. Because what unfortunately happens, if you are one of those individuals that is frequently triggered, people will begin to avoid you because it's just too emotionally difficult for them to maintain a relationship with you. So step 2 is for you to forgive yourself. If you're just realizing that you're a person that is frequently triggered, you may be feeling ashamed because now you're acknowledging that your tendency to be easily triggered has caused issues in your relationships. Perhaps you said things or you've done things that have hurt other people. But you need to understand, however, that you're not at fault for what has happened to you in the past. The past can't be changed, so feeling terrible about it only ruins your present moment. Perhaps you feel responsible for some of the negative things that have happened to you in the past. Even if those past painful events were the direct result of bad choices that you made, the truth is that you did the best that you could with the knowledge you had at the time. Maybe you feel like a bad person because of the things that happened in your past, but I don't believe in bad people. There are no bad people, only bad beliefs. And when we believe the wrong things, we act in ways that do not serve us or the people we care about. Let me give you an example. So Jessica was raised in a very strict religious home. Her parents taught her that their religion was the only true religion, and the people outside of that religion were sinful and bad. So she grew up believing that the people outside of the religious group were dangerous and out to get her. Because of this, they would look for every opportunity to persecute her for her faith in God. Jessica was programmed to believe that the world is a dangerous place filled with people that are hostile to her. Now, naturally, as an adult, she continued in this belief system. So even though she left the cult, she continued to have a negative attitude towards many of the people around her. She always felt like people generally had a bad motive behind everything they said and did. Now, how do you think that affected her relationships? Do you think Jessica is a bad person because she was easily triggered by the behaviors of others? Do you think Jessica is a bad person because she was easily triggered by the behavior of other people? You understand that Jessica has been doing the best that she could with the knowledge that she was given, and you would have compassion on Jessica. But you also need to give this compassion to yourself because you have done the best that you could with the knowledge that you have. I want you to let that sink in. I want you to write it on your mirror if you have to. Say it to yourself at least once a day. It is time for you to let go of past shame. Because when we hang on to past shame, it only drives us back to the very behaviors that we are ashamed of. I want you to remember this phrase. Shame is a down payment on future behavior. That means when you allow shame to dominate your mind, that very shame will become a trigger in your life, driving you back to the very behavior that you're now feeling ashamed of. Step 3, don't avoid triggers. So it has become very trendy in this last decade for trigger warnings to appear on nearly everything. Now, I'm not being critical of this approach because it's actually an attempt to be compassionate and considerate to other people. So we all know that we need more loving kindness in this world. However, avoiding triggers can create many problems in our lives. As you attempt to avoid triggering people and triggering situations, you begin to narrow your world. What this does is make your window of stress tolerance smaller and smaller with the passage of time. Instead of increasing and expanding your stress resiliency, you find that you are less and less able to handle stressful situations. And by focusing on eliminating and avoiding triggers, you can even find yourself more easily triggered because that's where you are placing all of your attention. You are training your mind to be afraid of triggers instead of dealing with them as they arise. So with the passage of time, the situation does not improve. It actually worsens as you attempt to protect yourself from these triggering events in your day-to-day life. Step 4, recognize that being triggered is actually an opportunity for you to heal. Just live your life. Understand that you will be triggered because you're a human being on a journey of healing and growth. So as you walk your path, you're going to be triggered, and you need to recognize that as an inevitable part of living in the world. So instead of getting upset and angry when you're triggered, change your perspective and look at it as an opportunity to heal. Triggers are a way for you to recognize past pain that is not healed. So instead of seeing them as your enemy, begin to view them as your friend, because they are providing you with an opportunity for growth and helping you gain emotional strength and resiliency. And step 5 is to heal your past pain. The most important step in overcoming the tendency to be easily triggered is to actually heal your past pain. Taking personal responsibility is the first necessary step, and having done so, it's now imperative that you actively work to heal your past pain. But I'd like to offer you a couple warnings here. So there are many therapeutic modalities out there, and it's important that you choose those that actually move you from a place of emotional pain to one of empowerment. So many therapies are operating on the false premise that the best way to heal past pain is to talk about it over and over and over again, week after week after week in therapy. Now, often this type of therapy has 2 negative effects. First, the constant repeated rehearsal of those past events only hardwires a false perception, limiting beliefs, and emotional pain deeper within the subconscious mind. Second, individuals undergoing this type of therapy often end up with what is called a trauma identity. They begin to identify themselves as a traumatized individual. They see themselves as rendered hopelessly broken and defective by their past suffering. So they believe that this is going to require years and years of therapy to solve the problem, and all of their life becomes colored by this past trauma. But what you actually need to do is shift the beliefs and change the thinking that developed as a result of your trauma. So any therapy that you choose should lead you from a place of emotional pain to a place of empowerment and peace. Now, of course, I believe the best way to heal is to address past pain in the deep places of your mind where the issue actually now resides. So by discovering the root cause of your current struggles, you can heal, creating permanent, lasting change within your subconscious mind. So you'll be shifting your beliefs, and as a result, your thought processes will begin to change. So if you are interested in learning more about creating permanent, lasting change on a subconscious level, Please look below in the description to this video and you'll find a link to my website where you can learn more about the subconscious therapies that can set you free from anxiety.